I'm Rebecca Welsenbeck, and this is day 4 of our Research Impact Challenge. Our activity today takes a little bit of a different form. It is not so much a series of steps for you to work through. Rather, it's an opportunity to pause and reflect on your use of social media as a scholar and a professional in public and online. So let's take a look. I will share my screen, and we'll go back over to our research guide, which you are, I'm sure, quite familiar with by this time. What we're asking you to do today is take an inventory of the social media platforms that you're using and just stop and think about why you're using them, if you like them, if they're serving you, and maybe take a little time to dig into whether you're using them for professional or personal purposes or a blend of both, which is completely fine and definitely the space that I'm in myself. But then to just sort of check in with yourself, think about if you're happy with what you're doing and if there's any changes that you'd like to make to ensure that your use of social media is serving you, that you're in charge of it, and that you're using it thoughtfully and critically, not just sort of living with choices that you might have made many years ago and never thinking about again. So there's a link in the guide, and I'll be sure that it's in the video as well, to this worksheet. And the worksheet is a Google document. It's just a table. When you go here, you will not have access to edit this document because this is available to everyone. So what you can do is either make a copy for yourself, which will then appear in your own Google Drive space, or you can download or print this document if you prefer to work on paper when you're doing this kind of exercise. And down the left side, we've got a list of sort of all the platforms that I could think of. I'm sure I didn't get anything, and there are some blank spaces here for you to put your own. And for each, I ask you to think about, whether you're on that platform, what handle or username are you using? And this is just to get a sense of across your platforms, do you have sort of a consistent identity that you're presenting? And do you want to? Do you use a particular alias when you're in a personal or private space and your real name when you're engaging professionally or some other version of that? Just to get a sense of whether there's a lot of variation or consistency across how you're presenting yourself on these spaces. Is your profile tied to your U of M email address? That might or might not be appropriate depending on how you want to engage here. Do you use this space for professional or scholarly work? Do you want your academic and professional connections to find you here? Bear in mind that your academic and professional connections include supervisors, mentors, advisors, as well as students who may report to you or be under your supervision. Have you reviewed this account within the last year and thought about your privacy settings? Do you want it to be publicly searchable or not? If you haven't done so, this might, give you some good guidance about where you may need to check in, maybe revisit a platform and take a look, see what's new, how settings have changed, and make sure that it is sort of locked down according to the way you want it to be. And finally, just a gut check. Do you like using this platform? Is it serving you? Do you go there regularly? Serving you could be anything from helping to advance your career to just being enjoyable, connecting with friends, staying in touch with family. None of this is meant to impart any kind of judgment or prescription for what you ought to do with your social media presence. It's just a chance to stop and think about something that we often don't take time to reflect on. Once you've kind of gone through this inventory, there are some questions at the bottom just to get you thinking further about what next steps you might want to take. Are there platforms you really enjoy? Are there ones that you hate? Are there ones that have been really meaningful for your scholarship or not? Are there some that you feel pressured to use because it seems like you sort of have to be there for your research or your teaching? And if so, which are those? And then here are some questions to prompt your next steps. Would you like to leave or quit or separate your presence from your U of M identity? Would you like to learn more about some of these platforms and maybe join up? And if so, why? Have a strategy in mind for what you'd want to accomplish there. If you want it to be easy for folks to find you across platforms, have you made it easy by using the same name or picture or email address, etc.? And the reverse of that, if you don't want people to find you easily, have you taken steps to sort of create very separate looking identities in those spaces? And finally, if there are platforms where you have found it productive to engage as an academic or professional, or where you'd like to start taking steps to explore that, brainstorm some goals. Would you like to join Twitter and follow 10 folks in your field? It could be very, very minor. It could be quite large, anything along those lines that you like. Just set some goals for yourself. So that is really our activity for the day. It is meant to get you thinking. This is not a checklist telling you to go create a platform or profiles on all these platforms. Rather, it's a chance to just think about how these are working or not working for you and make some decisions in an area where we often just sort of find ourselves along for the ride. Down at the end of our guide, there are some other resources for you to check out. There are materials available from the University of Michigan social account. I don't know why this isn't linked, but I'll try to find those links. I've also included some resources here about the ways that women, people of color, members of the LGBTQ community, scholars doing controversial work, and other marginalized and vulnerable populations can really be disproportionately burdened by harassment and trolling, and the way that some communities more than others may need to and may have really good reasons to be really thoughtful, really careful, and potentially really private about their identities and their work online. And I just want to make sure that you're keeping your own safety and mental and emotional well-being in mind first as your top priority as you think about how to engage. Some of these resources may be of help to you in understanding what that experience can look like, as well as providing some guidance. And that is it for today's activity. So take some time and think and maybe make some decisions for the future. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that we will see you again for our next challenge activity, which will be all about creating a web presence for yourself, a website of some kind on the web. Have a great day.